Right now, a quiet but absolutely massive structural shift is taking place across the globe. We're talking about the global elite, ultra-wealthy investors, corporate oligarchs, billionaires, actively untethering themselves from traditional nation-states and legacy fiat currencies. And they aren't just, diversifying a little bit. They are executing a calculated, deliberate exit strategy from the very financial systems that everyday savers completely rely on. So, welcome to this explainer, where we're going to decode the exact blueprint they're using to secure absolute financial and physical independence. Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to break down this billionaire playbook into 4 distinct plays. First up, we'll look at the fiat exit. Then, we'll explore the halo trade. After that, we'll examine the concept of the sovereign acre. And finally, we'll piece it all together with flag theory. Section 1. The fiat exit, the debasement trade. The first pillar of this playbook is built on a pretty harsh realization. The old rules of money are eroding. To really understand this shift, we actually need to trace the psychological evolution of investors through 4 acronyms. It started with FOMO, the fear of missing out, which very quickly escalated into YOLO, or you only live once, which fueled all those startup excesses. Now, this frenzy reached its peak in what financial experts are calling gonzo capitalism. This was a stage of pure recklessness, leveraged products, meme coins, the absolute certainty of government bailouts. It basically made the market look a little more like a casino than an actual economy. But every phase of excess generates a corrective, right? So the global elite are now racing toward the 4th act, halo, a sudden, massive flight toward immovable value and actual substance. This transition is driving what is known as the debasement trade. See, the old fiat playbook relied heavily on interest-sensitive fixed income, cash, and government bonds. But when governments persistently increase the money supply, the value of each individual currency unit drops. I mean, if you felt the pinch of inflation at the grocery store lately, you understand perfectly why the elite are rotating their capital entirely out of that cash system and into hard assets. We're talking gold, Bitcoin, commodities like copper and uranium, and physical real estate. These are assets that maintain true scarcity even when fiat currencies are inflating. Section 2. The halo trade. Hard money. Let's look at the specific financial assets the ultra-wealthy are aggressively accumulating to protect their capital. This brings us to the halo trade. Coined in February 2026 by Josh Brown, halo stands for Heavy Assets, Low Obsolescence. It describes assets that combine immense physical substance, think pipelines, copper mines, power grids, with a deep, deep resistance to the passage of time. The crucial point here is Brown's litmus test. Ask yourself, can this business model be replicated just by typing a prompt into software? Or does it require actual pipelines, physical mines, and gigawatts of power? If it's the latter, you're looking at a halo asset. Now, what's really fascinating is that the ultra-wealthy don't view acquiring these heavy assets as a tactical trade or just simple speculation. Not at all. They view it as building an architectural fortress of wealth. They are piecing together a strategic reserve that stands completely outside the legacy banking system. Wang Sartori perfectly summarized this mindset in the source material. He said, "It was not speculation, it was not a trade, it is strategic reserve construction." The ultimate goal here is absolute financial independence. Normal dollars flow through banking, sure, but banks can fail. The elite are looking for systems that literally do not depend on any single currency or government. So in this massive search for non-inflationary assets, gold and Bitcoin have actually emerged not as enemies, but as complementary tools. On one hand, gold brings maximum heavy asset density. It has a 5,000-year track record that reliably stabilizes balance sheets. On the other hand, Bitcoin expands strategic flexibility in the digital realm as a completely non-sovereign reserve. More and more investors are realizing that holding both is vastly superior to holding just one. In fact, we're now seeing institutional products formally combine both assets. Just look at Cantor Fitzgerald's Gold-Protected Bitcoin Fund, or the BOLD ETF over on the London Stock Exchange. These are essentially risk-weighted fortresses built directly for institutional money. This perfectly echoes Michael Saylor's perspective on this whole asset rotation. He notes, "We're converting capital into credit. We're converting economic wealth into a stream of cash flows." It is a fundamental transformation of how wealth is preserved across generations, entirely bypassing the endless conveyor belt of currency debasement. It's really fascinating when you step back and think about it. Section 3. The sovereign acre, hard land. Now, this raises a really interesting question. Once your money is fully protected from the fiat system, how do you protect your physical environment? Well, the sources present a very profound thought. What if the next constitutional crisis is not declared from a presidential podium, but tyranny forged into a deed? Across the United States and globally, billionaires aren't just buying property anymore. They are essentially redrawing municipal governance by acquiring massive tracts of land and setting their very own rules. Legal scholars are calling this phenomenon deed-based sovereignty. See, traditional American property law tried to sever the link between sovereignty and soil. But today, through contracts, restrictive covenants, and complex easements, public governance anchored by democratic participation is quietly giving way to private rule. Billionaires and corporate developers are literally turning deeds into instruments of private command, allowing them to govern massive enclaves. This means the rules governing these spaces aren't debated at a local town hall where you can go and vote. They operate strictly by private decree. And you know what the most strategic land grab of all is? Farmland. Billionaires are racing to acquire it because it is the ultimate survival asset. I mean, if supply chains break or the economy collapses, the people who control food production and water, they hold immense leverage. Furthermore, it's just a brilliant financial maneuver. Farmland is heavily subsidized by taxpayer dollars and enjoys massive tax incentives. Things like conservation easements allow the ultra-rich to shelter wealth, drastically reduce taxes, and lock up the land for private use for generations. We are essentially witnessing a return to corporate microstates. Historically, we saw this in places like Pullman, Illinois, a town where employees lived and shopped entirely under corporate decree, and due process just ended at the property line. Today, we're seeing modern echoes of this in privatized contract cities like Sandy Springs, Georgia. It's a stark contrast, right? Public sovereignty relies on civic engagement and constitutional protections, while these private enclaves operate solely on the whims of the deed holder. Section 4. Flag theory, fluid borders. So, you've secured hard money, and you've secured hard land. The final piece of the puzzle is securing personal, geopolitical freedom. With rising geopolitical tensions and shifting tax landscapes in 2025, the global elite are using international laws to fundamentally reduce their dependency on any single government. They are piecing together a truly untethered lifestyle. This strategy is formally known as flag theory. It was first introduced back in the 1960s, but is incredibly relevant today. It operates on one very simple core principle: go where you're treated best. It's basically a diversification strategy, where individuals plant different flags across multiple countries for different aspects of their lives. Think of it like a menu. Generally, there are 7 key flags you can plant. You might hold citizenship in a country that offers fantastic global mobility. Meanwhile, you maintain your tax residency in a low-tax jurisdiction using a digital nomad visa. You incorporate your business where the corporate laws are friendly. You keep your banking and physical assets in highly stable systems. You establish your digital privacy offshore, and you actually live your day-to-day life somewhere completely different, wherever offers you the absolute best quality of life. Now, it is absolutely vital to understand that modern flag theory is not about illegally hiding assets. Not at all. In 2025, the regulatory landscape is incredibly strict. Global measures like FATCA and the Common Reporting Standard require absolute transparency. So implementing this strategy requires immense capital, expert legal planning, and strict compliance. But for those who can afford that legal architecture, it serves as the ultimate political risk insurance, preserving their personal autonomy in an ever-changing world. Section 5. The new reality. Let's bring all of this together. The trends we've analyzed today point to a massive fundamental divergence in how wealth and freedom are structured globally. The actionable playbook for the global elite comes down to a simple rule of 3. First, escape the debasement of fiat currency by moving into hard money. That's your gold, your Bitcoin, your Halo assets. Second, secure physical independence and leverage through hard land, effectively becoming a sovereign entity on your own acreage. And third, establish fluid borders through flag theory, ensuring that no single government can ever fully dictate your financial or personal life. This playbook is highly effective, no doubt about it, but it requires resources, specialized knowledge, and massive scale. Which leaves us with a critical, provocative question straight from our sources. As the elite quietly execute this exit strategy, will everyday investors get a chance to adapt and benefit? Or will this new reality remain an exclusive, heavily guarded goldmine strictly for the ultra-wealthy? It's something we all need to be thinking about as the rules of the global economy are rewritten right in front of us. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to keep questioning the systems around you.